From the 1st to the 30th of August, members of the Green Party of England and Wales will be voting to elect a new leadership team. The contest for leadership between Adrian Ramsey and Ellie Chowns on the one hand and Zach Palanski on the other has attracted a lot of attention from both the media and the Green Party membership. Under the radar, though, there is a contest for the deputy leadership of the party, and there are 9 candidates in the running for that post. Bright Green is hoping to shed a little bit of light on that election, and part of the way we're doing it is through this interview series. This evening, I was joined by Rachel Millward, one of the candidates in the running. Before we get to that interview, though, I have one thing to ask of you, which is that you hit subscribe so that you can keep on top of everything that Bright Green does. I hope you enjoy the interview. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined this evening by Rachel Millward, one of the 9 candidates in the running for the deputy leadership of the Green Party. Rachel, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing these. It's great.
Not at all. So, my first question for you, nice and straightforward, is why do you think that you are the best person to be the next deputy leader of the Green Party?
Um, well, I would love to be the next deputy leader or one of the next deputy leaders of the Green Party. It's an amazing party that gives me huge hope, and I guess I'm here to serve communities and to serve nature, and any way I can do that, I want to give all I can. In terms of what I think I can bring, we all know this is like a really pivotal moment for the party and a real shifting moment in British politics. We know that fascism is on the rise, and having reform next to me on the BBC Politics sofa is a whole other ball game, and it's actually truly scary what the threat is and the scale of that. And at the same time, I think whenever there's a kind of shift, the old system starts to crumble, there's opportunities for really amazing stuff, really amazing change too. And I absolutely believe that the Green Party can be a totally leading force in the positive, hopeful response to everything that's happening. And I guess to do that, we need to be communicating and cutting through at a totally different level. Now, that doesn't mean that I want to become a world-class influencer, and I think I can be. I can communicate in different forums. Like I'm, happy to be there on the BBC political sofa. Love knocking on doors and whatever. But what I'm interested in is how you embed that communication, that messaging, and that it's almost like creating a new brand throughout an organization. And I guess the different types of leadership I've done before, I've always been involved in an organization when it is going through a time of radical change, and I absolutely love the nuts and bolts of that kind of scaling up and that gearing up to the next level. So so I share leadership of a district council. Been doing that only for a couple of years, but I've learned absolutely masses about how to create change, and we've done loads for our communities and for nature, and that's been really exciting, and learning the ropes of local government. But before that, I was in the creative industries. I guess I want to specifically talk about that a bit because what I feel. The first thing I did was the first significant thing I did, I suppose, was that I co-founded a international women's film festival called Bird's Eye View, and it was set up in like 2002. Now, at this time, feminism wasn't just uncool. It was like massively off-putting to people. Like none of my peers identified as feminist. It just wasn't really in the conversation. And the reason that we started this festival was because only 7% of film directors were women. So it was this absolute clarity that without equal perspectives in film, which was the most powerful medium at the time, we were missing half the perspective, and that mattered for all of us. That was a net loss for everybody. But we didn't want it to be like a niche worthy feminist film festival that a tiny minority of people who were specifically interested would come to. We wanted it to celebrate the work of women filmmakers from around the world, the very best, and to do that in a way that had the broadest possible appeal and was really attractive to lots of people. And so we actually really created a brand which in the time resonated and had like humor in it, and it celebrated really properly. World-class filmmakers came along, and amazing musicians were creating new live scores, and stellar spokespeople were coming on. And I've fundraised about $250,000 a year for it, which actually is a shoestring budget, but it punched above its weight because of the creative way that we do it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we're at this point where we want to cut through, we want to scale up, we want this party to really engage with loads more people. And I want to say that by bringing in the creative industries and creative people, we can do that like never before. And everybody's so excited about Mandani, aren't they? And how you suddenly have this kind of global hero who's resonating with everybody, saying these awesome, quite radical, but also just really super sensible policies. But he's somehow appealing to everybody. That's him as a personality, but it's also the creative brand around it. I mean, actually, his mum is a filmmaker, Myrna, who's one of my patrons when I was running Bird's Eye View. And you can tell that there are creatives in the room devising those campaigns. And that's what we need. So I would want to bring, and I can definitely help the party bring the creative industries in, because they would love this as a project of hope. And it's a very progressive sector, the creative sector, and there are so many people within it who would just love to help us punch up and up and kind of devising campaigns that can reach people through accessing that creativity. So I'd love to help with the communications, the nuts and bolts bit. I suppose that's the kind of visionary, let's expand and get a really exciting vision. But I'm also now really familiar with the grassroots of it and the mechanics of this party, and really want to support the grassroots through a massive scaling up. And I think we can do that through actually more effective top down to help a more effective bottom up, if you see what I mean. So like lots more training, lots more toolkits, lots more resourcing, lots more peer-to-peer support and mentoring. There's a lot of ways that you can help this party grow in a really healthy way and really push through with a more exciting visions that we cut through and become the popular party we actually already are. So that'd be great.
So I wanted to pick up on some of those things that you mentioned there, and it's you're very on message, because these are things that you've been talking about in your campaign quite a bit. So one of the things you've talked about is that you think that what you want to deliver is to make sure the Green Party can cut through in the media more than ever before. How are you proposing to deliver that?
Well, I've mentioned devising creative campaigns and getting leading creative and commerce people in the room to do that, and I really do believe in that. And I think you punch above your weight by getting the best minds in there and brainstorming and devising things. I also just think having media training through the party. I mean, I've done quite a bit of TV for the party now. I haven't had any media training from the party at all. I've only had a little bit of media training outside the party, really a tiny bit. So I sort of think, I can be massively trained and improved on, but so many more people can too. And actually, right from local spokesperson level, we just need to train people. It isn't rocket science, and that can happen. But yeah, I do also think with the clearer, bolder messaging and all the rest of it, that we will inevitably, and with campaigns that are kind of attention grabbing and that are deeply popular, we would inevitably grab more headlines. So it's a combination of the really visionary, pushing it forward in exciting ways, and the really much more supportive nuts and bolts training and support for everybody.
So in terms of messaging, then what do you think the core messages the Green Party should be pushing in the current political context are?
Well, I absolutely think it's right that but we don't want to. I mean, it really appalls me when people sort of start talking about recycling or getting nervous about the wrong product that they're buying or something when they're around me. And I just feel like really upset. Like, did you actually think I'm in politics to kind of guilt trip your individual choices, or your the economic possibilities of this moment for you, or just the headspace you have right now as a busy working mum or whoever you are? And so I think it is just beyond vital that we keep connecting into the bigger picture, and this is about inequality at every level, and the policies that we have, they're absolutely, because they help the planet on which we depend, but they also make people's lives easier and better, and that there's an awful lot more we could clearly communicate about that. And the fact that our policies are actually incredibly popular when people are queers, they just don't necessarily realize they're ours. That says it all.
And so we're having this conversation a year after the last general election, when the Greens went from 1 to 4 MPs, a breakthrough in the party's electoral history. We're going to have another general election at some point over the next 4 years. How many seats do you think the Greens should be targeting in that election?
Oh, I hate being asked numbers when I haven't looked at all the data. So I can't give you a number because I haven't looked at all the data. But I would say we need a step change, and I really believe that's possible. And the conversation reminds me of the step change we had at council. So in 2019, there were 2 councillors elected here in Wealden. I wasn't actually even living around here then, but there were two councillors elected, and only one of them with an actual target campaign. The other one was sort of by mistake, paper candidate. So it's 2. Then it came to 2023, and we knew that we could do better, and you could feel there was a major shift, because basically Conservative heartland was completely crumbling, and so it was like, come on. But certainly there was a spectrum of belief. So some people were like, we've only ever done 1 target campaign as a local party. We don't have 10 times more people, so we cannot run 10 target campaigns. That's logic. And I was like, yeah, but we can though. we can win that, because you can feel the shift of the landscape, the change in the local political landscape. And I remember just the month before the election, when we had 10 targets and some papers, like I think only about 3 or 4 papers, but there was one I just suddenly thought, I think we can win that one as well. I think we can go for 11. Come on, let's do it. And just sort of, I hope this councillor's forgiven me now, because she's brilliant, because she got elected. We just put out 1 letter and did a bit, and we got her elected, and we were 11. And that has been transformative, because then we could be an equal partner in the alliance that we're in, and it meant that we shared the leadership, and it meant that the vision has been very much a green vision. It's been really exciting. And so I guess that's a little microcosm for what it's like when the political landscape changes dramatically. Don't underestimate what you can do.
You obviously didn't give me a number there. I'm going to read a series of numbers and ask you to tell me whether you think the Greens could be winning that many seats at the next election. So I'm going to start low. I'm going to start with 10.
Of course. Obviously.
25.
Yeah.
50?
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so 50 is your sort of maybe number.
I just shift my tone there, didn't I? But I mean, hey, it could be more, because the other thing is what happens with new leadership over this next couple of years, because it's about this national story and how we are on the national stage, and what very clearly what we're seeing with reform, and my word, are we seeing it on local doorsteps. They are not campaigning door to door. They are not local candidates, and people are voting for Farage. That's all they're voting for. And they're doing brilliantly. And we just won a by-election. We only won it by 50, whereas 2 years before we'd won it with like 70%. So, it's a big shift. So absolutely, it probably does depend a lot on the leadership the next couple of years, in terms of where the leadership takes us on the national stage and other factors around. And then obviously you do then also analyse the data in each place. And I haven't done that, and I'm sure there's a brilliant team on it.
I'm sure there is. Now, in order to get that many Greens elected, somewhere in the region of 25 to 50, then the party's going to need to build a sort of electoral.
Now you say that.
Too low. You're welcome to go higher if you wish to. But in order to deliver that, the party's going to need to build an electoral coalition, right, of different groups of voters, different demographics, that it's going to be able to appeal to in order to get over the line in all those seats. What do you think that electoral coalition should look like?
So just to be clear, you're not talking about coalitions with other parties. You're talking.
No, I'm talking about an electoral coalition, which I guess, so for clarity, the Reform Coalition is, the groups of voters they're appealing to are retirees, socially conservative, white people, young men, and so on. That's the coalition that they're aiming for. So what should the Greens be?
All right, so we've already got clear strengths in young people, particularly young women, which I love and would love to lean into massively, particularly having worked in the women's sector. And I'm like, yeah, come on, let's lean into that. Let's get those young women leaders going. We've definitely already got an advantage there. We know that there are people leaving Labour in droves because they have socialist principles, and we resonate as the leading party of the left, and because, oh my word, is this Labour government weak and disappointing, and there is no vision and there is no hope, and people actually want hope. So that's another sector. Obviously, I'm in an area where there are people who were conservatives, and kind of do love our policies, and maybe some people do come in because they have a sort of nature first view of things. But I think the reality is, to win seats in general election, the reality is they then need to agree with all our other policies and our stance on things. But it's surprising how many people do. I think particularly old school conservatives, so they're less sort of right wing, but they actually love our kind of integrity and the way we do politics in that way. Who else? I mean, who not really? I mean, not is just the far right people, isn't it? And that I'm trying to think about segmenting it more. Um,
So, well, I guess there's a tension underneath this question, right? Which is on the one hand, there's an argument which says that the Greens should be seeking to, appeal to the broadest possible range of people, and then there's another argument which says actually it should be hyper focused on certain demographics, the types of people that you've talked about, young people and young women in particular, for example. Other people will talk about renters and people who work in public services as the core demographics the Greens should be targeting, and therefore that requires a certain set of messages that would naturally be different to those
the
that
thing
if you were
is,
seeking for broader appeal.
yeah, the thing is, when you say that, I just like the problem I have is that, I mean, this country, housing is inaffordable. And we've just kind of accepted that. Like it's just bizarre. People sort of, it's like that is a new normal. It is impossible for most people to afford rent or to buy. Like it's just become ludicrous. So that actually, the fact that like, that Labour are not actually tackling the planning system in a way that would solve the housing crisis, and it's like this kind of bill thing will not actually result in enough social housing. Like if we meet our housing target here in rural Wealden, we do not meet our housing need. I mean, that is bonkers. So actually, I think there really is a wide range of people that are looking for a party that says we're going to change that, and we are on the side of renters, and we want loads of social housing, affordable housing. And I talk to people on doorsteps in a place you might think is quite conservative and rural, but they're with me. What they're worried about is that their kids can't possibly afford a home, like, and they don't know what to do with that. And that, and the younger generation is like, where do I go? Who's speaking for me? But even the fact of how appalling it is, and it didn't have to be this way, that isn't getting out there enough. I'm always amazed when I speak to people and I go, aren't you angry about that? Like, are you not furious? Like, I don't get it. So I don't think that's a narrow group. I think that's quite a broad group. And then, look at the water companies, and it's hard to find anybody who's delighted with how much sewage we have in our rivers and seas. And actually, the water companies are now holding up housing because we're sort of having to apply grampian conditions to stop them occupying housing until the sewerage systems are sorted. I mean, go figure. Do you want to occupy a house and a sewage coming out of the garden, which has happened? So we're having to put these conditions on, and sometimes that means the housing can't be provided. That's just awful. So there are very few people saying, no, we should keep the companies in private hands. So the opportunity here is massive because things have gone so badly wrong, and Labour is not providing a solution. Yeah. So I think, and I guess I think when political parties really win, they are appealing to quite a broad spectrum because the messaging resonates with a lot of people. But the messaging about the state of our society and the inequality and is and can be really, really clear. No one's given anyone hope for a very long time, and that is what we can do.
And so I've got one sort of last question for you about sort of the electoral strategy stuff. And so earlier you talked about the Greens being the leading party of the left. Now we're having this conversation at a time where it appears likely that by the time of the next general election, there will be another party of the left, possibly led by Jeremy Corbyn, possibly not. How do you think the Greens should be responding to that prospect?
Well, right now, I think we should just be keeping focused on our own strategy and growing and excelling and being the amazingly exciting, progressive, and brilliant party that we can be, without doubt. Because yes, we're socialists, but we're not only within the definition of socialism. We've actually got a bigger and more exciting vision than that. And I think, yeah, I think we should feel really, really proud of that and solid in that. And I guess yes, we definitely resonate, and of course you would, with people who are leaving Labour because they're so weak and uninspiring, and actually worse than that, actually just horrific in a lot of ways with what they're doing to vulnerable people and supporting a genocide. I mean, it's unspeakable actually what this government's doing. So yes, we welcome all those people, but we don't exist as a knee jerk to a rubbish government. We don't exist as a knee jerk to a failing Labour Party. We have a green vision. It is bigger than that, and it in itself is really hopeful. So yeah, I'm sure there are loads of positives about the Jeremy Corbyn Sultana thing. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn used to be my MP. I mean, I slightly haven't forgiven him for being very weak on Brexit, gotta say. But I think we forget a lot of things, don't we? But I get that there's lots of shared um, lots of shared ground in some ways. And we could talk about, like, if the question's about coalitions and alliances and electoral pacts and that sort of thing, then that's the thing you work out at the time. And I think those questions are always important to consider, and you strategically weigh it up at the time, and it's a time-bound temporary thing with specific goals, and that's kind of how it's done. But yeah, mostly at the moment, I think we are positive and progressive and have a really, really exciting vision.
So I'm going to move on now to what I am calling the sort of quickfire section of these interviews. And I've got a series of questions for you that are on some contentious issues within the Green Party around policy and other bits and pieces. Now, I am going to give you some space at the end of this section to elaborate on any of your responses that you want to, but I would like, if possible, to get a single word answer to each of these questions initially. Ideally, yes or no, but you can say maybe if you wish to. So my first question for you is, should the UK remain a member of NATO?
Uh, right now, yes, but it's problematic.
Is overpopulation a significant issue that needs tackling when we address the climate emergency?
No.
Should HS2 be built in full?
Now, yes.
Does nuclear power have a role to play in a sustainable energy system?
Well, yes, because it's already there, but renewables now.
Should the
That wasn't
UK
one point,
rejoin
was
the
it?
EU?
Yeah.
Should people who publicly oppose the Green Party's position on trans rights be able to remain a member of the party?
Oh, well, trans rights are human rights, and our policy is really, really clear, but there are some legal issues with that statement, I think.
We can go into that in more detail if you wish. My final question on this section is ecological sustainability possible under capitalism?
Um, I'm going to say no, but that's not to. But we need to find a way of supporting entrepreneurialism too, within that, if you see what I mean. So that's a little caveat.
That's absolutely fine. That's the end of my 7 questions. You were mostly quite disciplined there. There are a
Was
few
I didn't feel
slightly
it.
longer. You're
Perfect.
more disciplined than some of the other candidates have been, I promise. But now's your opportunity. If there's any of those that you want to go into a bit more detail on, now's your chance.
I mean, I did do my little caveats, I think. You know that the role of the deputy leader is not to devise policy, it's to communicate it and support the growth of the party. And I love that we think about policy collectively. I guess when I approach questions like policy questions, I obviously have to do it at council about some things, which might be more microcosm things, but they might be really important. I guess I just sort of start with principles that I do hold on to, and then it's always kind of fascinating to work it through in conversation and dialogue and see where it lands. So some things it's genuinely hard with a yes, no, like it isn't reflective of where I'm at with it. But yeah, all good.
Good. So the last few questions I have for you are for people who've watched any of these interviews before. They know I like to end them on what I think are quite less serious questions, and I think they're quite fun. But people always tell me they're the hardest ones, so
Oh
we'll
god,
see how you
great.
get on. So my first one is that there have been 5 deputy leaders in the Green Party's history. Who do you think has been the best?
Zach Palanski. I mean,
Tell me
I guess
why.
why? Do you know when I first heard Zach give a speech at conference, I just I just sort of, you just come alive with hope. I was just like, that is, it was such a good speech, and the brilliant bringing together of economic social justice and climate justice, and it was so compelling, and his personal story kind of woven it was just a masterful speech, and I was like, bring that on. And then um I've just really enjoyed the way he raises others up. It's unbelievably obvious. He's done it at conference. He's brought different people in to speak, people from different backgrounds. I just think he's doing a lot to improve the diversity of this party, and I've really enjoyed him do that. And I sort of feel that I mean, you know, he's never visited our local party. We did try, we couldn't get him. So you can't get a person everywhere, but you do see him out and about in the party, being genuinely supportive of the grassroots. But yeah, maybe it's that he's really raised others up, and he's. I think I get this. I haven't worked with him closely. I don't know him well, but I get a sense of a really big-hearted person.
So my next question is, I'm assuming you are going to be giving your first preference in the deputy leadership election to yourself. Who are you thinking of giving your second preference to?
I've been told I'm not allowed to do this. I mean, like the rules of these elections are slightly mysterious to me, but I tie our campaigns together and we could all be disqualified. So I just don't think I can answer. But I would say I haven't met everybody, and I'm really looking forward to meeting the others. And just yeah, fair play to everyone for standing. Be great to have a drink.
If you don't feel able to say who's getting your second preference, then maybe are there any particular qualities or things about some of the other candidates that you wanted to mention?
How do I do that? How do I do that for one without the others? I find this really hard because I feel that you're gonna. I'm paranoid about these rules. But I would say that we seem to have a good spread of people. We seem to have people with different skills and experiences. Some great communicators in the mix. It's great to see people from different backgrounds. It's like, yeah, I'm sure.
Very diplomatic.
Well,
That's
yeah.
that's I'm sure well within the election rules. Don't worry about that. So one of the questions I always ask people in these interviews is, what is your favourite Green Party policy?
The wealth tax, brilliant, kind of obvious. I mean, mind-blowingly obvious. The brilliance of it is the phenomenal difference it would make to public services, whilst it's ridiculously tiny. It's like 1%, and then something goes to 2% over a billion or something. I mean, it's tiny, but it's so transformative, and I think it's incredibly popular. I think we could ultimately go further than it, but I think it's an incredibly popular and vital policy. In fact, kind of everything else rests on it, because you can't deliver the rest of it without that.
So you know what question's coming next, which is, what is your least favourite Green Party policy?
Am I allowed to say the rules around these internal elections? No, what I would like to say is the idea that we would elect another leadership team next year. I'm like, this is a 3-month exercise, this campaign, and that's actually a lot of resource from a lot of like movers and shakers within the party, but it's also you've got purdah rules around it, but you can't lead for 9 months and take a party somewhere. Like it takes time. We've got to elect the right people and let them fly. So I would change that immediately.
Very well understood. And my final question for you is, who in the Green Party inspires you the most?
Oh wow. Gosh, there are so many inspiring people. I'm gonna can I just say somebody really local that no one's ever heard of?
Of course you can. Yeah.
I'm gonna say there's a guy called Michael. Everyone in Wealden will know Michael. He comes out on his mobility scooter and helps us all deliver leaflets and knock on doors, and always comes to your community forum and asks questions, and always spreads the word, and always wears his EU hat. And it's just a bit of a legend. And thank you, Michael, because you've helped all of us.
Thank you, Michael. Everyone always chooses either basically Caroline Lucas or someone in their local party to
Oh, do
answer
they?
that one.
Of course, of course.
That's the norm.
Okay.
But yeah,
Good to know him
that's
then.
that's the end of my questions for you, Rachel. So thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, real pleasure. Thanks for doing it. It's a brilliant thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that interview. Before you go away, I have a few things to ask you. The first of them is that you let us know what you thought in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, somebody else you know will do too. So please do share it with everyone you know. Give the video a like and make sure you hit subscribe.